Talk Express, 1050 AM and 106.5 FM, KCAA Loma Linda.
Hello, we're back here on KCAA Radio. This is Patrick Franz, your host, the Note Mentor, and this is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. I have my show on the second Sunday of every month at 1 p.m., so be sure to tune in where I'm going to bring you guys amazing expert speakers. Usually, today you just got me, but I really want y'all to have a well-rounded education when it comes to what it means to become a note investor. So remember, we're becoming the bank and we're owning the mortgage. We're collecting mortgage payments, not rent payments. We don't have to deal with the terrible T's, the tenants, the termites, the trash, and these kinds of things. And so, this is what I talk about on my show. And I always have a little disclaimer right at the beginning of the show where I say, these are just opinions. It's either my opinion based on my life experiences or my guests' opinions. And by no means are we trying to give investment advice or solicit investments. Nor are we giving any legal advice. And so what we always recommend, folks, is that if you're going to make any type of an investment, you go and seek the proper legal advice and proper legal counsel before you get involved in any type of an investment, because every time you invest in anything, there's always going to be some type of risk. Nothing's perfect in life. And so seek the right folks, get the right professionals, and get the right legal advice before you make any type of investments. But on my show, we talk about mortgage note investing. I want you folks to understand what that means, and more so, why I think they're the sexiest side of real estate investing, and possibly one of the best investments that's ever been created. But today I want to get a little personal with you, and it's why I didn't book a guest. I want you to be a little personable with me, and I want you to get to know your host here. And the reason why is I want to get a message out that everybody and anybody can do what I've done in the past few years of my life, and anybody out there can become financially free in a few short years. And I want to get you to know who I am a little bit and how I've done all of that. And then we're going to get into, again, the notes and why I think it's very sexy. And I think every single savvy investor out there should absolutely think about owning mortgage notes in their portfolio. I don't mean to steer people away from other types of investments, but hopefully on today's show, you'll understand why perhaps mortgage note investing could be one of the best investment vehicles, at least that I've ever seen. And so I strongly urge folks to get into it, to start to understand it and make it a part of their portfolio. And you won't regret it. You won't regret it, as they say. So, today, guys, I wanted to give you a little background on your host here, Patrick Franz, and why I ended up with the name The Note Mentor and everything like that. And certainly not a brag session, but I want everybody to relate and understand that wherever you're at, you can move forward, change some habits, learn some new skills, provide some more value to the marketplace out there, and drastically change your life financially in a few short years. Because I don't know if y'all folks out there who are listening ever felt like me. I'm sure you might be able to relate, but I think everybody, their entire lives since they figured out what money was, have wanted some, and so I think that a lot of folks want financial freedom. A lot of people want to have some wealth and not be so worried about money on a consistent basis. And let me tell you, it's okay to not know where to go. I mean, when I was coming up in the world, and I thought, well, first of all, you could have a good job. That's what we were always taught. You could have a good job, a good steady job, and that can get you some financial freedom. But I think what we all realized, and some are still realizing this, is that with a job, we're trading our time for money. Okay, and you consistently have to go and trade time for more money, and there's nothing wrong with that. And some people love their jobs, and I certainly did love mine. Heck, I was uh, a telemarketer and such, and I'll get into that, which, it's a fun job, but boy, oh boy, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week for that money, for that paycheck every Friday can be difficult. I also thought maybe, folks, you could work your way up in a company and not just be one of the workers, but maybe somehow work your way up into, say, upper level management or something like that, where, those guys, they're making the big bucks, right? The guys at the top. And I tried that. Many of you folks are doing just that right now. And there's nothing wrong with that either. And I'm not dogging this stuff, but I'm just trying to talk about financial freedom and what that means. Because the only thing I thought besides a job or working my way up in some sort of a corporate company was to hit it big. And when I mean hit it big, I mean like the guys that, they get signed with the NFL or the PGA Golf Tour, or they come out with a hit song or something like that. And, I kind of realized that although I'm talented in many ways, I'm nowhere near as good of a golfer as it would take to get recruited to the PGA Tour. And, I'm 5'7", so we all know I'm not going to go join the National Basketball Association anytime soon. So if you guys can relate to me in searching for financial freedom out there in the world, and trying to just grind it out and trying to make as much money as you can and live the best life you can, and provide the best life financially for your children and all of that. And I started out telemarketing. These are just these jobs we get when we're young. And I thought, well, I ought to get into sales rather than being a waiter, which I was. But I didn't like being a waiter. I didn't like being a busser and cleaning up after folks. And so I decided I wanted to try telemarketing. I thought there was more money in sales. And, that eventually evolved into venture capital, which is just telemarketing on steroids, really. Working in a phone room as a phone grunt. And then of course tried to get into high ticket sales here in San Diego, California, selling home remodeling, and driving from home to home, and trying to help people fix their roofs or get new windows or remodel their kitchen and those kinds of things. And that was who I was. And I thought I was going to be stuck there pretty much the rest of my life. And I, trading these 8 and 10 hour days for my paychecks. And I don't know if anybody listening can relate, but it seems like you're just in a never ending spin cycle. And so, when I got into that venture capital telemarketing job, I had to learn about investments. Not enough to really be a pro at anything, but I had to know what I was talking about to savvy investors over the telephone. So if anybody listening can relate, I had to learn what stocks and bonds were, and most people know what those are. I learned a little bit about commodities, trading commodities. We all know about investing in gold and silver. Uh, People understand what mutual funds and 401ks and IRAs are. And, how about investing into some sort of a fund or a REIT, or, people putting money just in a savings account so that they don't lose it. But there's also in there house flipping and owning rentals. And I don't know about you folks listening, but out of all the things we talked about, stocks and bonds and commodities and gold and silver, which are all great investments, it seemed like a lot of folks were gravitating towards house flipping and owning a lot of rental properties. And so, of course, I wanted to know what that was all about. And thank goodness I had some folks that had been experienced landlords in the past. And it's always good to learn from your elders and to learn from other people's mistakes so you don't have to go through those. And what I kept hearing about being a landlord and accumulating more and more rental properties was that it was wonderful and it could be very profitable, but we're dealing with those terrible T's. And when they talk about landlords dealing with the terrible T's, they're talking about the tenants, the termites, perhaps, the trash, and other troubles associated with being a property owner, like property taxes and insurance and liability and major repairs. I mean, heck, roofing and things like that is not cheap these days. And so I figured I really didn't want to be a landlord. Okay. And so I was lucky enough to have a mentor come into my life that said, Patrick, you ought to look at mortgage note investing. And again, I said, well, what's a note? And for those of you that don't know, a promissory note is what you fill out when you borrow money from a bank to buy a house. And when you borrow from money from a bank to buy a house, they also make you sign a mortgage document. So there's two important documents when you buy a house with financing as a borrower. One is the promissory note. It spells out the terms of how you're going to pay that money back. And then another document's the mortgage, and it secures the physical property as collateral for the bank if you don't pay the loan back properly. And so when we're mortgage note investors, we're actually investing into and buying one of those promissory notes that is secured by physical real estate. And when I learned about this, it was confusing at first, and it may be to you, but I will just tell you this one thing. Mortgage note investing carries the three most important factors that investors usually search for when they're looking at any investment. People weigh safety, right? Is it a very risky investment? Is it on the safer side? Well, I'll tell you, mortgage note investing has what we call the big three. And these three things are hard to find in most other investments that you compare notes to, like the ones I was mentioning earlier. And those three things are, number one is security. And you get the security because the promissory note you've invested in is backed by a physical piece of real estate. So you actually have collateral there. Number two is yield. Sometimes our yields and our returns are fluctuating up and down based on the markets, and you're playing the itsy bitsy spider game with your portfolio over the years, and it's hard to have steady growth. Well, mortgage payments don't change if the markets crash. And so that mortgage payment that comes in every month, you collect it. And it's cash flow, folks, cash flow that can supplement your lifestyle, or that can be compounded. Okay. And that's the ticket, folks. Security, yield, cash flow. That's mortgage note investing. And I'm going to talk to you more about it right after this break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The toughest part in the lending process is patience. Like I tell all my clients, once you get those keys in hand, it'll all be worth it.
Everything that they said they were going to do, they did. I saved so much money working with First Lending Solutions. I love my new house. I couldn't be happier.
So reach out to me at First Lending Solutions so I can help you get started.
You can contact Dafina Miller with First Lending Solutions at 951-973-0123, DafinaMillerMortgage.com.
Are you a real estate investor looking for a new opportunity in one of the top tourist destinations in the world? Look no further. Welcome to Punta Cana. Perla Bahia is a private resort-style community in Punta Cana that consists of modern condos, custom villas, and various commercial amenities. So if you're interested in learning more or joining us on one of our monthly investment tours, don't hesitate to contact me today at 909-494-2280.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Boats, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station, KCAA radio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM.
Alrighty, folks. Hey, welcome back here to KCAA Radio. This is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show, and Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. I'm your host, of course. And before the break, we were just getting into a little bit about my background, and I ended on that mortgage notes have the three main things investors usually look for in any type of investment. One is security, two is steady yield, and three is monthly cash flow, mailbox money. And of course, when I learned about notes and I compared note investing to all of the other investments I'd ever heard of in my entire life, I obviously thought, boy, this sounds too good to be true. And some people learning about notes for the very first time may think that same thing. Well, wait a minute, this sounds too good to be true. And also I hear, well, if it's so great, how come I've never heard of it? And I may get into that for you folks here in just a second, but let me tell you how possible it is. I learned about notes in 2018, late 2018, and here it is 2022. And, I've amassed a wonderful cash flowing personal portfolio of mine. We've launched the Note Investor University, where we coach students, and we've taught over 600 students how to become professional note investors and add this vehicle to their portfolios. And if you want to look at that, go to noteinvestoruniversity.com and take a look at the programs and things we have to offer so you can learn this and add this to your portfolio. But also now I'm a fund manager. And if you would have talked to me in, say, 2015 or 16 and said, hey, in 2021 and 22, you're going to become a fund manager in the mortgage note investing space, I would have called you crazy. And radio show host, because obviously, folks, you're listening to my radio show that has to do with note investing. And now it has spawned more opportunities, changing your mindset, getting with different types of folks, getting into the money business and getting involved with people that are in the money business, which I consider note investing to be. It spawns other opportunities. And now we're moving on to build apartments in Florida. And again, you would have never thought a guy like me, who was just a sales guy and a telemarketer, would have been able to accomplish these things in just this few short many years. And I'm not saying this to brag, folks, but I really am adamant that people understand with mortgage note investing, you can change your life dramatically within a few short years, young or old. Anybody can just decide to alter their lives for the better financially. And with this investment vehicle, there are ways that you can do this no matter where you're starting from. My partner and my mentor found out about notes when he was about 60 years old and has been able to change his life dramatically over the last 10 years or so. And anybody can do it, folks. Anybody can do it. And that's my message there. But let me give somebody a relation. Maybe again, if this is your first time hearing about mortgage notes, I'm going to give you some sort of analogy so you understand this. If you buy a house with cash, you bring the cash to the table and then you get a deed and the keys. And that's about it. The deal's done. But most folks are not buying houses all cash these days. Most people need to go and get some financing. And so in comes a promissory note. A promissory note simply spells out the terms in which the borrowed money is to be paid back. And so it may have in there the number of months, the interest rate the bank is going to charge you, the monthly payment amount, and when that monthly payment amount is due, and if there's any late payment penalties and those kinds of things will be listed there in that promissory note. It's kind of a written IOU. And with the bank doesn't want to lend money unsecured when there's a physical piece of real estate there. And so they also give what's called a mortgage document that the borrowers fill out. We always fill it out as the borrower. And basically a mortgage document collateralizes or pledges that physical piece of real estate as collateral for the terms of that promissory note. So what you're doing is you're submitting a document to the bank that says, I, the borrower, am pledging my physical house as collateral for the terms of that promissory note, meaning if I don't pay like it says in that promissory note based on the rules that we've described, the bank can take my house, and you're volunteering that. Okay. And so that's what it means when we're note investors, is that we're buying one of those promissory notes. We're literally stepping into the shoes of the bank. We become the bank. And now we're collecting mortgage payments every month from a homeowner rather than collecting rent payments every month from a tenant. And so we don't have to deal with the T's and the phone calls, you know, the toilets, the tenants, the termites, the broken water heaters, and these kinds of things, because the folks in that physical house are homeowners. They're not tenants. You're their bank, or shall we say their lender, their mortgage lender. You're not their landlord. And so, you know, because this sounds so great, and some people listening might be saying exactly what I said when I learned about this. Well, this sounds too good to be true, number one. And number two, if I've never heard of it, then it's got to be some sort of a scam. I mean, how come I've never heard of this? And that's okay. I thought the same exact thing, folks. But let me get into how this all began and how come you've never heard of it until maybe today. I don't know if folks understand, but prior to the 1930s, most folks were not homeowners. Most folks were renters, and only the wealthy and elite owned physical property. And the reason that is because prior to the Great Depression and such, to buy a physical piece of real estate, you had to put 50% down as a deposit. So you had to come up with half of that house's value as a deposit. And they were only giving loan terms extending out to about 5 years. And so imagine if you put yourself in their shoes in today's standards, you'd have to ask yourself, could I go buy myself a house in today's marketplace, put 50% down as a deposit, and then afford how much the monthly mortgage payment would be if they only allowed me to take a 5-year loan? And for most folks, the answer is no. And it was back then as well. But what happened is in 1934, they instituted the National Housing Act, which then spawned FHA. And for those of you that don't understand why that was instituted, it was because they were trying to make homeownership possible for lower and middle income families. And so it was a great thing that they were doing. And the way that they did that, folks, is that they were offering to the public that they could buy a house. And to buy a house, they could actually give 3.5% as a deposit, not 50%. And then they would stretch out the loan term to up to 30 years. And what ended up happening then is lower and middle class families were then able to afford to buy a home, of course, with the bank's help. And those folks that are listening understand then they advertised very much so this thing called the American Dream. And that American Dream was to, of course, incentivize the keep up with the Joneses theory, and to say that everybody should have a nice house with a picket fence, and everybody should have a nice, big, fancy car. And although most folks can't afford these things cash, that's okay. The banks are there to help you. We're going to require low deposits, and then we're going to stretch out the terms to make the monthly payments affordable. So the American Dream was awesome, and it spawned a lot of growth and a lot of inspiration for people to live better lives and all of those things. And don't forget that the banks aren't crazy. They're not silly. And so the banks created something called amortization. And amortization, we've always felt the brunt of as the borrower, because golly, don't we know that when we've taken out a 30-year mortgage loan and then we've begun making our mortgage payments on time every month like a good borrower, and boy, maybe 3, 4, 5 years go by, and you think, golly, I have paid a lot of money per month over the last few years into this mortgage, but yet my balance that I owe the bank has hardly gone down at all. And that's a pretty clever thing, you know, amortization. The banks actually created these mortgage loans so that they could be paid most of their profits up front, and that each monthly payment that the borrower would make would hardly put a dent in the unpaid principal balance owed. And so, you know, of course, folks, what I'm getting at here is that this was great for us as borrowers, and it allowed people to expand their lives, live better, be homeowners, have their own land, have their own privacy, a place for their dogs to play in the backyard. It's all good. But also, the banks aren't silly. The banks have constructed these loans in a way that also benefit them financially, and there's no doubt about it. So can you folks imagine being able to step into the bank's shoes, being able to collect monthly mortgage payments with interest without the headaches and liability of being a landlord, and maybe even utilize some compounding, folks? See, if you don't have to live off of the cash flow that comes in every month from owning one of these mortgage notes, you can take the cash flow that's coming in monthly and invest it as well. And so you get to enjoy this wonderful thing that the wealthy really like to utilize, which is compounding. Compound your money and have your money working for you, have your interest earning you interest. In fact, Albert Einstein once said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He said, those who understand it earn it, and those who don't pay it. And so I'm just getting you folks that are listening here to understand one of the greatest investments there are is mortgage note investing. It's a wonderful vehicle. It's a great way to have security, good yield, and the cash flow that most folks don't understand how important it is. By way of compounding, folks, you can achieve a different level of wealth than you ever thought possible. And so we're going to discuss how this all works. We're going to discuss how you can monetize it and how you can add notes to your portfolio in just a moment, folks, right after this commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The toughest part in the lending process is patience. Like I tell all my clients, once you get those keys in hand, it'll all be worth it.
Everything that they said they were going to do, they did. I saved so much money working with First Lending Solutions. I love my new house. I couldn't be happier.
So reach out to me at First Lending Solutions so I can help you get started.
You can contact Defina Miller with First Lending Solutions at 951-973-0123, definamillermortgage.com.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Choose power today and help us create a cleaner planet. Over the past years, utility prices have rapidly increased. Power provides home energy solutions that would save money. Power is the world's first virtual solar company that aims to adopt sustainable energy worldwide. Our company delivers low-cost, clean, and reliable energy solutions. The solar investment allows you to become eligible for an income tax credit. The solar investment is a great way to provide long-term value. Power is the first solar company that reduces carbon footprint for a cleaner environment. Power is experienced and one of the fastest growing solar companies in the United States, which provide the best solutions according to your needs. Call today for your free solar consultation. Join us as one of our ambassadors and earn $1,000. Earn $1,000 when the installation is completed. Free sign up at www.power.com/marie.waite/ambassador. Feel good about what powers your life. Marie Waite, your solar consultant. 951-378-5316. Enjoy your life with solar.com.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA. Notes, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
basically go to the radio station KCAA radio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM.
All righty, folks. Hey, thanks for being patient there for that commercial break. We're back here on KCAA Radio. This is Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor, on the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. We're talking about mortgage note investing. And before I went to break there, I was letting you guys know that I'm going to give you guys some idea of maybe why you don't know about mortgage notes and why it doesn't seem so popular, even though it's so great. Any movie buffs out there, you may have seen this movie called The Big Short, and Brad Pitt and a few other wonderful actors are in it. And for no other reason besides the fact that it's just a good movie that I believe came out in 2008. But The Big Short is a movie that really helps explain and depict what happened in 2008 with the mortgage meltdown. And forgive me, I believe this movie came out after that, but the movie explains the mortgage meltdown in 2008 and depicts it very well. And so just a great movie for movie buffs. But if you want to go ahead and watch it to try to concentrate on what really made mortgage note investing popular in just the last few years. And here's what happened, folks. Most of the promissory notes secured by mortgages have been owned in the past by large institutions, and banks have been trading these notes back and forth with one another for quite some time. The folks that could write very large checks, I mean, $100 million checks and those kinds of things, could sit at the lunch table and hear about these deals from bank to bank or fund to fund. And it's been going on a really long time. I think some folks who have been borrowers and taken out a mortgage loan have felt the brunt of this by receiving a letter in the mail saying, hey, Wells Fargo was your original mortgager, and they have transferred your loan to, say, Chase Bank. And so as a borrower, maybe you might have received a letter in the mail known as a transfer letter, where it said your mortgage has been transferred from bank to bank. And so now you have to send your mortgage payment in every month to somebody different. And I hate to tell everybody what happened there, but your mortgage was transferred. That means sold. It means somebody sold your mortgage note to somebody else. And so that movie, The Big Short, just depicts how all the mortgage meltdown happened in 08, and some of the larger banks and funds had to sell off millions of these mortgage notes at pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. And I don't have time on this radio show to go into an explanation of how all that happened. It had to do with bad financing and bad loans being handed out left and right, and pretty much destroyed the financial market and crashed the real estate. Everybody knows that. But most folks don't know that the secondary market, where individual folks, individual investors like me and like you, after 2009 and 10, it started to flourish. A lot of people now were able to just pick up one of these mortgage notes for their portfolio rather than pick up another rental property and deal with all the headaches. Now, I want you guys to understand something. If you buy one of these notes, people always ask me, well, is it risky? Sure, everything can be risky. Is it safe? I don't know. Safe's a tough word. It's secured by real estate, but is it safe? I don't know. Seek legal counsel to find out. But I will tell you this. If you buy a performing mortgage note, and performing meaning that somebody's living at the house and they're just paying their mortgage payment on time every month, like a good borrower and such, there's only 3 possible outcomes, folks, that can happen if you own one of these mortgage notes. Let's see if you agree. Let's say there's 20 years left on a mortgage note, 240 months left for somebody to pay on their mortgage. Is it possible that, number one, they could pay as agreed, meaning that somebody could just go ahead and make their mortgage payment on time every single month for the next 20 years? Well, kind of unlikely that they wouldn't sell the house before then, or that they wouldn't refinance or something in those 20 years. It's kind of rare, but sure, it could happen. You could buy one of these mortgage notes and you could collect the mortgage payments for 20 years straight, not have any problems. And that would mean they just paid as agreed. And oftentimes we're getting wonderful yields with these investments. And so it wouldn't be bad to make a great yield for the next 20 years on your money and have it grow at a certain rate. That'd be awesome. I think most people can agree with that. And, another thing that could happen, like I just mentioned, is that throughout those 20 years, that homeowner that's paying the mortgage to you could do what's called early payoff. They could refinance with a different bank, or they could sell their house and move to Florida to retire. But either way, we as the mortgage note investor would get paid the total payoff balance. And I don't think I mentioned to you folks, but these notes are purchased at a discount. If somebody owes the bank $100,000, I can maybe go in and pick that note up for $90,000. And so since you've invested in the beginning less than what they owe, usually when the second option of early payoff happens, it usually is good for you as the bank. It actually usually ups your return on investment. It makes your yield better. And that is because we're able to buy mortgage notes at a discount. Okay. And number three, the third thing that can happen if you get one of these notes in your portfolio, and this is the scariest one for folks usually, and they say, Patrick, what happens if I own one of these mortgage notes and they stop paying? Well, that's okay. I was nervous about that at first, and I thought, well, what do you do then? And I always just usually reply to people, well, what does the bank do when you don't pay your mortgage? And so, remember, we sign a mortgage document, give it to the bank, and we are pledging our physical house as collateral that the bank can take back if we stop paying our mortgage. And so, folks, I mean, if I'm not talking specific yields here today or anything like that, but just take a look at that. If you bought one of these performing mortgage notes, you're collecting monthly cash flow with a good yield, and you have collateral that is a physical piece of real estate backing your investment, none of those things really can be disastrous. Number one, they could pay as agreed, and you could collect a nice yield for the next 20 years with monthly cash flow. Number two, they could refinance, or they could go ahead and sell the house, and you'd get what's called early payoff. That could actually boost your yield since these notes are bought at a discount. Or number three, they could, in fact, stop paying and become delinquent. And remember, as the note investor, we do have a document that borrower has pledged to the bank, that's us, pledged their physical house as collateral if they don't come true to the terms listed on that promissory note. So, folks, I think maybe some of you now can say, well, wow, if this isn't too good to be true, it just very, very well may be one of the best investments out there. And yes, you're right. You are right. And so, folks, here's something that I'll give you is that as a note investor, once you get your experience, you somehow come up with favorite exit strategies. And just so you understand, if you bought one of these performing notes, my personal top 5 favorite exit strategies for performing notes are: number one, buy and hold. Buy it and hold it. Put a mortgage note in your portfolio and collect very passive cash flow with a nice yield month after month after month after year. And boy, if you can accumulate more than 1 or more than 5 or more than 10 of these in a portfolio, the monthly cash flow really starts to be substantial. And again, you can live off of that cash flow and let it help you supplement your lifestyle or supplement your retirement. Or you can actually compound all that cash flow and reinvest it to grow your wealth. Another one that people love to hear about is that you can flip a note, just like you can flip a house. But the difference in flipping a note, folks, is that you don't have to lift a hammer or hire a crew or buy materials or any of that. Remember, we're not flipping the physical property. But what if I said you could flip the promissory note? It's possible, folks. It's possible. I could say buy a promissory note for $50,000 and I could sell it 3 weeks later to some other note investor for $56,000 and I could just make $6,000 in 3 weeks. It is possible, folks. It is possible. What if I said you could modify a performing note? And some folks would say, well, why would somebody living in their house want to do a loan modification if they're paying their mortgage payment on time every month? That sounds odd. Well, it's not so odd. What if they had 20 years left before they paid their house off? And what if I asked them, maybe they'd like to pay their house off in 15 years? Well, by changing the loan terms, it could work out for that borrower, and it also could work out by increasing your yield or monthly cash flow. Now, you could also hold it for a short amount of time and flip it. What I mean to say is you could buy a mortgage note, you could hold on to it for a year or two, collect all that monthly cash flow, and then sell it, because these are very liquid investments. And with all the new note investors getting into this these days, there's no shortage of people that will certainly buy a good note from you. And the last, or my fifth top exit strategy for performing notes, is instigating early payoff. And what I mean to say is that, folks, if we're able to buy these notes at a discount, the day we purchase a note, we have instant equity. And so, just for a rounded example, if they owe the bank $100,000 and we're able to go in and buy this note for $90,000, we actually have a $10,000 we call spread there, based on what we invested and what we're owed. Okay. And so what if I just instigated early payoff by sending a letter to the borrower through my licensed loan servicing company and just saying, hey, I'll give you a $2,000 discount or a $3,000 discount on the balance you owe if you're able to pay this off within the next 90 days, and leave it up to them how they do that. But folks, those are my top 5 exit strategies on performing notes. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, and I'll tell you a little bit about our university where you can learn all this just in a minute after this commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The toughest part in the lending process is patience. Like I tell all my clients, once you get those keys in hand, it'll all be worth it.
Everything that they said they were going to do, they did. I saved so much money working with First Lending Solutions. I love my new house. I couldn't be happier.
So reach out to me at First Lending Solutions so I can help you get started.
You can contact Defina Miller with First Lending Solutions at 951-973-0123, definamillermortgage.com.
Are you a real estate investor looking for a new opportunity in one of the top tourist destinations in the world? Look no further. Welcome to Punta Cana. Perla Bahia is a private resort-style community in Punta Cana that consists of modern condos, custom villas, and various commercial amenities. So if you're interested in learning more or joining us on one of our monthly investment tours, don't hesitate to contact me today at 909-494-2280.
Choose power today and help us create a cleaner planet. Over the past years, utility prices have rapidly increased. Power provides home energy solutions that would save money. Power is the world's first virtual solar company that aims to adopt sustainable energy worldwide. Our company delivers low-cost, clean, and reliable energy solutions. The solar investment allows you to become eligible for an income tax credit. The solar investment is a great way to provide long-term value. Power is the first solar company that reduces carbon footprint for a cleaner environment. Power is experienced and one of the fastest growing solar companies in the United States, which provide the best solutions according to your needs. Call today for your free solar consultation. Join us as one of our ambassadors and earn $1,000. Earn $1,000 when the installation is completed. Free sign up at www.power.com/marie.waite/ambassador. Feel good about what powers your life. Marie Waite, your solar consultant. 951-378-5316. Enjoy your life with solar.com.
All right. righty, folks. Thank you so much for being patient and hanging in there. This is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA. Patrick Franz, your host. I am the Note Mentor, and we're talking about note investing today. And right before that commercial break, I was talking about performing notes and why they're one of the best investments out there. But here's what's interesting. Folks, there's a couple different ways to monetize this for yourself if you want to get into note investing and make it a part of your life and a part of your wealth building strategy. I have what I call the 5 rungs of the ladder. And these are the 5 best ways to monetize this note investing space for yourself. Like I said, build you some wealth and maybe have just one extra investment to add to your portfolio amongst the rest of the things you're already doing. Because it's great. Remember, these things have security because they're secured by physical real estate. They have a nice steady yield and they have monthly cash flow. And it's hard to get those 3 things in one place. But folks, the 5 rungs of the ladder would be the 5 different ways that you can actually monetize the note business for yourself. And I'll go over those real quick. Number 1 is a note broker. A note broker actually gets good at finding sellers of these notes. Several places to find sellers of these notes and buyers of these notes like me. And if you put the 2 together and there's a transaction that happens, you can get a broker fee. This could be a very good side hustle if you need extra income. Or you can be a note investor. Number 2, that's a note investor. If you have your own resources like an IRA or a 401k or cash or toys like motorhomes that you don't use anymore, or a lot of equity in your house, and this is all leverageable capital. And if you're using your own money to invest into notes, you're a note investor. Now, also people use other people's money, just like you hear when folks are syndicating apartments or they have a fund or they're raising some funds from private individuals to flip a house. Well, you can be a professional note investor, which is the 3rd rung of the ladder. And you can not only use your own money to invest into these mortgage notes, but you can also leverage other people's money to build your portfolio bigger and faster than you may be able to with your own means. And so that would be a pro, the 3rd rung of the ladder. And folks, the 4th rung of the ladder, I like to call it a note dealer. And it means that, you've gotten so good at investing into notes and you've gotten good at leveraging other people's money to build up portfolios and such. And you've obviously at that point made some connections in the industry and you have sources to continue expanding your note investing business. And you might want to become a note dealer, and that may even require a little employee gathering. You may have to have some team involved. And the idea there is to say, well, if I've been able to do 1 or 2 notes a month, how can I expand to maybe do 5 or 10 notes a month? Well, if you do 5 or 10 notes a month, you might not buy them all, but maybe you'll flip a few. Maybe you'll buy a couple to hold them. Maybe you'll partner with some investor partners on a few or what have you. But you can be a note dealer and you can expand your note investing business. The 5th rung of the ladder, folks, I like to call it a fund manager. And, I know growing up, I didn't have a wealthy family and we weren't always taught financial intelligence much. And I used to just think a hedge fund manager was a very smart suit-wearing individual that were in the movies that I used to watch. But not the case. A fund manager is somebody that's a good steward of investing other folks' money as a professional. And, you could go all the way up to being a fund manager and raising a certain amount of funds for you to be the manager of. And if you're a really good note investor, you can not only make a great return for your investors involved in that fund and also benefit financially for yourself because you're the expert. And so, folks, there's several different ways to monetize the note investing business. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can become a professional note investor, how you can learn how to utilize these mortgage notes as a supplement for your investment portfolio. You may not want to go crazy and go very much full time into notes like I have, but whether you're in the stock market, whether you're dealing with commodities or cryptocurrencies or flipping houses for profit or any of that, I say that everybody needs to know how this mortgage note investing works so that you can add it to your portfolio and utilize the beauty of it to grow your wealth and leave a better financial legacy. And who doesn't want that? So if you want to learn more about note investing, I suggest you go to noteinvestoruniversity.com. That's noteinvestoruniversity.com. At the Note Investor University, you'll have several different options. There's an option there for everybody, folks. But we have a mastermind group. We meet every Saturday morning from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time. And it's a wonderful group. Tons and tons of like-minded note investors that come on every Saturday to gather and network. And also we have fantastic guest speakers from all over the note investing industry that are there to give nuggets and advice and all great things like that. And it's always filled with some jam-packed question and answering at the end of those calls. And over 180 hours of those mastermind calls recorded in the archives, and you get access to all of that. But that's just a monthly membership. It's very affordable. It's about the cost of a cell phone bill. And you can learn how to not only become more financially intelligent, but how to use these mortgage notes as a wonderful investment vehicle to help get you there. And there's also a university program where you can go through 6 college course style university modules. And there's plenty of sessions there and final exams to really boost how quickly you go from zero to hero in this game. And if anybody wanted my mentor's attention, which is priceless, there's another program in which we call the Master's Certification Program, whereas we feel anybody going through that program should be able to hang with the best of the best in the industry, talk the talk, walk the walk, maybe even start your own radio show someday. And so, folks, like I said, go to the noteinvestoruniversity.com, check out what we've got, get in this game, because it's not going away. Because of all the things that have happened in the recent past with the COVID moratoriums and the foreclosure moratoriums and eviction moratoriums and all of those things, it's created sort of a pause in the movement of note inventory for about 2 years now. And that's all about to stop. The faucets are going to turn back on, and there's going to be a lot of these notes to be had and a lot of great deals to be had. So get yourself in the game, know how to become a note investor, even if you don't go full-time into it. But folks, add this to your portfolio and get over to noteinvestoruniversity.com and get started. Time's a wasting. So folks, thank you so much. Join me every second Sunday of the month here on KCAA Radio. Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I'm out.
Southern California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA.
For several years, KCAA has been marketing